It's been called the world's beautiful game, but now it's showing its ugliest side, one that's steeped in corruption and in blood. This story begins in Paris in 1904 with the creation of FIFA, originally founded by just 7 nations. It's now the largest non-governmental organization on Earth, with 211 member associations. For more than a century, FIFA has promoted football as a force for good and pledged to maintain the highest ethical standards. But it was a house built on shaky foundations, and now because of long-standing and ongoing corruption, FIFA's reputation is irrevocably tarnished. With the growth of FIFA came immense wealth, and with the billions of dollars of revenue came corruption. So, when evidence of wrongdoing by key FIFA officials such as Avalanche, Blatter and Platini finally emerged, FIFA distanced itself from them. It claimed corruption wasn't institutionalized, but was just the actions of a few individuals. In 2015, the FBI swooped. 9 current and former FIFA executives found themselves in court in New York.
We are here to announce the unsealing of charges and the arrest of individuals as part of our long-running investigation into bribery and corruption in the world of organized soccer. They were expected to uphold the rules that keep soccer honest and to protect the integrity of the game. Instead, they corrupted the business of worldwide soccer to serve their interests and to enrich themselves.
The 2015 case resulted in a clutch of convictions and turned the spotlight on how countries win the hosting rights for World Cups. In 2010, there were bids for 2 tournaments. Without a long history of football achievements, Qatar seemed an unlikely candidate to be one of the hosts. And then, of all the bidding nations, only 2 countries were assessed by FIFA's evaluators to be the highest risk: Qatar and Russia. Nevertheless, when it came to the ballot, it was Qatar and Russia that won by significant margins. But not everyone felt it was a cause for celebration. Rather, that the results should be a cause for investigation. Michael Garcia was commissioned to head the FIFA Ethics Committee inquiry. His report was completed in 2014, but it was to be a further 3 years before FIFA finally released it. The report was a damning catalogue of rampant corruption and bribery. For example, the 10-year-old daughter of Ricardo Teixeira, president of the Brazilian Football Confederation, allegedly received $2 million from Qatar after its successful bid. Even today, FIFA continues to find and fire scapegoats instead of acknowledging problems at an institutional level, and this means that FIFA's culture stays the same. The most crucial task now is to eradicate corruption and to give back to the beautiful game its real values.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jamie Fuller.
Thank you very much. Almost had a rather auspicious start there. I tripped over the carpet. Thank you all for being here today on such a special occasion. Let me start by pointing out that we are sitting in the room that hosted the inaugural meeting of the General Assembly of the United Nations in 1946. On that occasion, the world came together after decades of upheaval with a common goal. And I hope today marks the beginning of a journey to restore the credibility of sport. But few of us will be around in 70 years' time to see how we go, unfortunately. Today is not just about this conference with some excellent speakers, but it also marks the establishment of something I've been working towards for years. That's a foundation for sports integrity. But let me start by quoting a man recognised as one of the greatest humanitarians that ever lived, Nelson Mandela. Sport has the power to change the world. It has the power to inspire. It has the power to unite people in a way that little else does. It speaks to youth in a language they understand. Sport can create hope where once there was only despair. It is more powerful than government in breaking down racial barriers." End quote. We believe that sport has the capacity to drive us all to passion and also to despair. What happens on the pitch, on the track, on the field, on the court or in the pool means so much more to us than the game or the competition itself. Sport can genuinely transform people's lives. For most people here today, there's probably no need to explain why I think that a Sports Integrity Foundation is necessary. But please indulge me a little whilst I give you some background. I first got into the issues of sports governance quite accidentally. I was actually pursuing doping issues in cycling. As the chairman of sports performance apparel company Skins, cycling is a key sport for us, so it was natural to be interested in what was going on from a commercial perspective. My passion is sport. That's why I got involved with Skins 15 years ago, and why our mantra is fueling the true spirit of competition. That's what piqued my interest in the challenges facing cycling and sport as a whole. And what I love about sport is all the good things about it. It's about fair play, it's about respect, it's about teamwork, perseverance, hard work, the quest for perfection, and of course, integrity. What I realised after learning more about was what was going on in cycling at the time was that Lance Armstrong was a symptom of what was wrong. He was not the cause. The cause came down to bad governance, and how that bad governance manifested itself via a lack of integrity that filtered from top to bottom and back again. Now, without going into the detail, that's what led me to establish Change Cycling Now, a measure that eventually led to the change in the leadership of the UCI, the Union Cycliste Internationale, the global governing body of cycling. It also got me really, really interested in what else was going on in other sports. Athletics, Olympics, cricket, and of course FIFA, and its bizarre decisions on the 2nd of December 2010 to award the 2 World Cups to Russia and Qatar. As many of you will know, following the release of the summary report of the Garcia inquiry in November 2014, which was essentially a non-event, other than to identify and disparage 2 whistleblowers, along with Damien Collins MP and one of those whistleblowers, Benita Merciades, both of whom I'm delighted to say are here today. We formed a coalition advocacy group known as New FIFA Now. I'm not going to stand here and talk through everything we've done and achieved with New FIFA Now, but what I will say is the more I learned about sport and its governance in the past 6 years since the cycling scandal, the more determined I've become to set up an organisation like the Foundation for Sports Integrity. In fact, back in September 2015, I wrote, "Sporting organisations are incapable of policing themselves, and even if they were capable, they wouldn't. I'm proposing the establishment of a world anti-corruption agency for sport that will benefit the hundreds of millions and billions of decent players, coaches, match officials, administrators, volunteers and fans who just want to see their sport played on the proverbial level playing field week in, week out. The idea is to help protect sport and everything we love about it in the first place. It's a big idea, but it has to start somewhere, and I start the conversation today. I'll keep you posted on how we go over the coming months." Well, it took more than a few months, it was more like 32, but here we are. So my view is simple. Sport and society are riddled with examples of people who play it safe, who default to the status quo, and who refuse to stand up for what is right. Yet sport has the power to represent everything that we value and which we hope would and should shape society. However, the good traits, such as integrity, teamwork, fair play, respect, hard work, are constantly confronted and compromised by corruption, greed, injustice, a sense of entitlement and self-interest. Unfortunately, sport gives us so many examples of this, and no sport more so than football. Worse, when people do stand up for what is right, they're greeted pejoratively as whistleblowers and treated abominably. But that's what brings us here today, and to start our work in looking at the intersection of sport, politics, and integrity as it relates to football, and deliberately so just 2 weeks before the 2018 FIFA World Cup in Russia. I believe that in sport and in society, we shouldn't have to lower expectations, but raise standards. Sport can and should be a leader. Sport can and should play a role in advancing civil society. This is what Skins is about. And this is why I formally established the Skins Foundation for Sports Integrity. What I stand for, what this foundation will stand for, and what it will pursue is championing, affecting, and influencing all that we value in sport as an example to the society in which we live. Our vision is a world in which sport inspires society, and our mission is to change the world through sport. Thank you very much for being here and for sharing this beginning. If I can please ask my colleague Damien Collins MP to pop up and say a couple of words. Thanks, Damien.
Thank you, Jamie. It's a pleasure to be with you here today and with all of you to mark the launch of this new foundation. My work looking at corruption in sport and my work with Jamie and Benita at New FIFA Now started 7 years ago. And the thing that interested me so much in this subject was not just its singular importance to our society because of the central role that sport plays within it, but also because I was shocked at how many times there was a lack of appetite from the governing bodies and international governing bodies of world sports to investigate allegations of corruption within that sport. And that was shocking, that whistleblowers, individuals with stories to tell, were rebuffed, often had no place to go. That when attempts were made to create independent bodies of inquiry, they often remained permanently under the control of the presidents and the executives of those authorities and produced reports that were limited in scope or even suppressed altogether. And there wasn't the opportunity to have the proper, rigorous investigation of serious issues of wrongdoing. And in many ways, sports, major sports, and particularly FIFA, seemed to believe that they were really self-governing ordinances. They were operated above international law, above international scrutiny. Well, I think as the FBI demonstrated, that is not the truth. That bribery and corruption are criminal offences, no matter where they're being committed in the world. That anti-doping is a serious issue that affects the integrity of sport and the health of athletes and can be and should be investigated by independent bodies. But we need these independent bodies to be strong, to lead investigations, to put sports on the spotlight and provide safe spaces for people within those sports who could be whistleblowers to come out and tell their story. We may like to feel that a lot has changed for the good in the last 7 years, but there's still a long way to go. And I know one of the things we'll talk about today is the disappointment in the superficial level of reform we've seen in many of these organisations. And if you were to look at FIFA in particular, you could say to yourself, if FIFA was serious about learning from the mistakes of the past, at allowing the truth to come out, it would allow people that have worked for FIFA to speak freely about what they know, to share what they know with inquiries, both law enforcement inquiries, parliamentary inquiries, and with the football authorities as well, to say, here is evidence of wrongdoing, will you act on it? But they will not allow that. Now, if you were serious about reform as well, you would want strong, independently minded people leading the ethics committees, leading the governance committees, producing reports, demonstrating areas of wrongdoing, but they don't want that either. So we can see that the real desire for reform, and with that openness and transparency, and for the decisions made by the elites to be held to account, and for evidence of corruption to be exposed when it's known about, we are still a long way from having achieved that. And I believe it is the case that sports will not voluntarily change. We're dealing about issues that have become ingrained over decades in maladministration, that people have profited from and have been done not to enhance the sport, but to its detriment. And we need powerful organisations with powerful voices within them that are independent and that can speak out and that can be a place of hope for people who love sport, who've given their lives to it, and who want to see it change for the better. Thank you.